That was a great presentation that you all had. First question I have is a two-part question. What are some powers of the president, and what power do you think is the most important, and why? Actually, three questions.
The president has many types of powers. The most important power I think he has is vetoing a bill. Vetoing a bill is the most important to me because what he does affects America. It can make a good impact on America or a bad impact on America.
I agree with my colleague Ryan, but there are other different powers of the president. For example, he can veto a bill, sign a bill into a law, grant pardons for criminals, and set foreign affairs, and much more. To me, the most important is signing a bill into a law, because if a specific bill that help our country perform better, then he should sign it so it actually affects us. For example, President Obama on October 14, 2012, signed a bill that was the Equal Work, Equal Pay bill. It gave women the opportunity to get the same pay as men.
Okay, nice job describing the powers of the president, but what keeps the president from becoming too powerful?
There are many ways to keep the president from becoming too powerful, but one of them is that Congress can override the president's veto with 2/3 vote. An example is, in 2007, George W. Bush vetoed a bill made by Congress to extend the state children's health insurance program for people right above the poverty line. It didn't make it past the president because it did not receive all 2/3 vote.
Another way to limit the president's power is federalism. Federalism allows the state and local governments to have power that the president does not have. For example, they can tax people, which the president cannot do.
Okay. Let me ask you this, what is judicial review, and is the power of judicial review given to the Supreme Court in the Constitution?
Judicial review is the power of the Supreme Court to declare a law, treaty, or action of government unconstitutional.
And it is not given to the Supreme Court in the Constitution. It was established in 1803 by Chief Justice Marshall after the Marbury versus Madison case.
Great. Does judicial review give 9 justices too much power? Why or why not?
I do not think judicial review gives the 9 justices too much power because it is split among 9 people, so the power is balanced out. Also, we have checks and balances, so if one of the justices is abusing their power, Congress can overvote them out of office.
Do you think Supreme Court justices should be appointed for life? Why or why not?
I can see both sides of this question. On the side of being appointed for life, as justices get older, they have more experience in court cases. And if they have more experience in court cases, they can compare different cases to find the best decision. But on the other side, they might get too old and are more prone to sicknesses, and they might get stuck in their old ways and might not adapt well to changes in the law, government, and court cases. But I am leaning towards the side of being
I agree with my colleague Garrett. I also agree with Franklin D. Roosevelt in that if you're a Supreme Court justice older than the age of 70, you have to have a younger judge help you.
I agree with my 2 colleagues, Megan and Garrett, because the framers decided it would be best to have the Supreme Court justices be appointed for life, so that if they made an unpopular decision, no one would they wouldn't have to lose their job.
Should the Supreme Court justices then be elected instead of appointed? Why or why not?
I think Supreme Court justices should be appointed. One reason I think this is because of the checks and balances. The president chooses who he thinks should be Supreme Court justice. Then Congress checks up on the president to make sure he makes it to ensure that he makes a good decision or to make sure he doesn't make a bad decision. Also, we elected the president, so we should trust his decisions.
Do you think the president should be allowed to serve more than 2 terms?
I think the president should be able to serve more than 2 terms. The reason I think this is because if there was limited terms, it would be undemocratic. Secondly, it will be taking people's rights to vote.
vote for who we want.
I respectively disagree with my colleague Ryan. I think that they should have term limits because one term is 4 years, so 2 terms would be 8 years. I think that would be enough time for the president to do all his responsibilities that he needs to do in that amount of time. Also, if the president did not have term limits, then he would become a dictator if we kept voting him in as president.
In addition to what my colleague Mia was saying, the 22nd Amendment was made on February 27th in 1951, stating that presidents can only serve 2 terms.
Since the president can only serve 2 terms, should the same restriction be placed on senators and representatives?
I don't think there should be restrictions on senators and representatives because it's undemocratic and takes our right away as the people to vote for who we want.
That's time.
Well, I just have to say, you guys are making this very difficult on us. You're so good. That was just amazing. I commented in the last screen that I said, it's gonna be so tough, because they were really, really good. I said, it's gonna be tough for your fellow classmates to be as good as you guys have been, because you set the bar so high. But you know, you guys did it, you made it. You might have even passed it, that's what I'm trying to figure out. But was just great, I'm telling you. My head's about to explode. But I really congratulate you all for just a great, great performance. Not only performance, but just what you knew, how you handled the questions. It was amazing.
Yeah, you guys did a tremendous job. You were all very articulate, you spoke very well, you made great eye contact, you interacted with each other extremely well. Megan, I thought you did a great job, and I thought it was really nice that your favorite president was George W. Bush. Sometimes when a president is recently out of being president, we tend to forget about the positives and just look at the negatives, and I thought that was great that you kind of took a look at that. You made great eye contact, and I also like your comments about the strong federal government and the need for that, along with the powers of the states to make sure that the states don't become too powerful. And Jordan, you did a great job, and I like how you kind of tied in, your favorite president being Abraham Lincoln, and then talking about segregation later on with Supreme Court justices, and kind of tying that whole issue coming together, and along with the presidents being able to overcome the veto, or Congress being able to, as the checks and balances of people. That was a great job you did.
I agree that you guys did a great job. There was no drop-off after you put your notes away. I mean, you were just as well informed, just as articulate, just as accurate with information when you were going just from what you knew, from what you had in your heads. There was no discernible difference between when you were reading what you were prepared. Your comfort level was still great, your energy level was great, eye contact was great throughout. Ryan, in addition to having good information, when someone testifies before Congress or speaks anywhere, it's important not to just sort of speak the same way, and to have some energy and enthusiasm and change and vary your tone. And you were spectacular with that. You punched words that were important and really hit them with energy and enthusiasm. And that's a difficult skill to develop, and you can do it already in 5th grade. It's very impressive. You did an outstanding job. Garrett, you were always at attention, but it was your time to speak. You rose to the occasion. Your posture came up, you leaned in, and you said everything with great confidence. So again, it's not just that the information was outstanding, the way you presented it was very, very good as well. And on question 5, I thought you did a spectacular job of balancing it to show both sides of, because a lot of these things are difficult. That's what the Supreme Court is, decide how to interpret what these things mean. So to show both sides of it and then show how you were wrestling and what you were leaning toward was just like hearing oral arguments at the Supreme Court. It was really, really well done.
Yeah, one of the things that I like that you guys did as a group when you all spoke at one time, highlighting key terms and phrases. Like y'all said, what's federalism? And then you explained what federalism is, and the veto and whatnot. And so that was really a good way to keep our attention, because one of the things that you have to do when you're speaking in public is throw those key words or key phrases in there so that your audience remembers them. Dina, I think you did a particularly good job when you were talking about federalism and how that limits the power of the federal government. And really, in this federal system, we all keeps looking like, a lot of people say, well, we ought to pass a law, or Congress ought to do this to settle this problem and whatnot. Really, our whole system of government is to limit the power of the federal government. You know, we don't want it to have too much power. But you talked about that really well. And the presidential power, you thought the most important power was signing bills into law, even though, you know, you talked about some of his other ones, things that we don't normally think of as presidential powers, but like the granting of pardons. You know, but when you gave your why you thought the signing of bills into law was so important, you gave an example of the equal pay for equal work law. You know, so you brought some current events to it, but yet you defended his the limitation on presidential terms as the 2 times. But all in all, you were excellent on that. I'll tell you what I was thinking. I said, this looks like the Eyewitness News team of the future. I mean, really, now, 5th graders doing this, doing it so well and so articulate. It's just amazing, amazing. You certainly have not disappointed me for the high standards I come in expecting of St. John's Lane Elementary School. I've always thought that this was the best, you know, but then I think to myself, well, I'm prejudiced because my grandkids go here, but I can say objectively, you guys are the best of all the schools that I've seen. You know, you're just knocking it out of the park. It's not wow, it's sham wow. I really appreciate all that you guys have done. Let's give another round of applause. You know, I know as hard as you guys worked, that you had help with it, and I know your parents had to work with you, and maybe an older brother or a sister. So let's give a round of applause, not only to your parents that are here, but those who can't be with us today. And with that, I believe we are adjourned. Thank you all. You and me. Yeah, are you speaking to the talk?
Thank you.